All right, I believe we are live. Welcome everybody to another episode 5 of the RGV Strongest Realtor with Luciano Martinez and my guest Eric Ochoa. Uh, this is a podcast where my goal is to talk about business, we talk about football, talk about education, and not just an individual who might be a successful individual or an individual that we might know, and we want to get a little bit more information out of that individual. So real quickly, I'm going to introduce my guest, Eric Ochoa. Go ahead, Eric. How
Yes,
you
sir.
doing?
How's it going? Nice to be here on your podcast. It's a pleasure. I've been following all your podcasts that you've had.
Are you really?
It's nice to see and get insight on some of the things, even some things that I might not even know about that I've gone in there, listened to some of those interesting podcasts. But yes, my name is Eric Ochoa. Uh, I am a teacher. I've been teaching high school for 10. This is my 10th year. I love it. I love what I do. Everybody always asks me, "Do you love what you do?" I do. I love what I do. Um, Currently, I'm not coaching at the high school like I was before. I coach my daughter's softball team, her travel team. So I dedicate my time to that, to my kids. I mean, that's what keeps me going. Este, but yeah, I mean, I graduated from La Jolla back in 2008, along with your host with Luciano Martinez. We played ball together. We played football together. Back in '08, we did have some classes together. Este, I
Which ones do
later
we
on
have
went.
together?
What was that?
Which ones do we have together? I don't remember.
The
Math?
one
Was
we
it
had
math?
together, and I tell everybody this story. Me and Luciano, I sucked at math. I had Mr. Steckler.
Uh-huh.
Luciano was in that class. Luciano was probably the smartest student in that class, I believe. There was a lot of smart students in that class. Maybe
Yeah.
I think like the top five students of our graduating class were in that math class.
Pues you got
Like I said,
Roel. Yeah, yeah. You got the
Ro-
valedictorian, salutatorian were there, I believe, if I'm
yes,
not mistaken.
yes, they were all there. So I felt out of place, a little bit out of place, but at the same time, I knew that I could hang with the smart kids.
Oh, most
Not that I'm
definitely.
saying not that I was smart, right? But I was horrible at math. But I always tell everybody this story, and I told some of the coaches when me and Luciano were coaching back at La Jolla. We were in Mr. Steckler's class, and Mr. Steckler always had five problems as you walked on inside the class. He always had five problems written on the board, five equations of whatever we were discussing that week, right? And then he would randomly pass out an expo marker to everyone, or not, or like to somebody random. And for some reason, he would always give me the marker. So I would have to go up there, try to work out the problem. I would always look back, and I would look at Luciano sometimes, and Luciano just wouldn't want to help me out. He wouldn't help me out. I'm like, dude, help me out. Give me the answer. But no, no, no. Luciano
Take
wouldn't
us,
give me
yeah.
the answer. Even when we used to take exams or tests, he would cover. He would write his answer. He would write. True story, guys. He would write his answer, and then I would peek to see what he wrote. I would copy his answer, and then he would erase it. He would erase his answer to put the right
Dude.
one.
So you know what, man? You bring me back to some of my days too when so I don't know if you know this, you may or may not. Did you know that I went to the teacher academy?
I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah, so I went to the teacher academy. I went over there for 2 years, seventh grade, eighth grade, and because you know me, man, I was a nerd, como quien dice. I was a straight up nerd, and I tell this story, where I transitioned from being a chubby little boy to being not so chubby. So I go to the teacher academy. I'm weighing 242 pounds in the sixth grade, and I go to the teacher academy for seventh and eighth grade. I really wanted to play football, and I come on over to La Jolla, dude. And I tell everybody this story, man. I got plenty of stories, but I come over to La Jolla, dude. And you have this stigma of La Jolla. And my very first day at La Jolla, man, I'm walking through Haunted Lincoln Halls. They open the doors, and I have no friends. I don't know anybody there at La Jolla, right? I have my cousin Trini there. She was there already there, and I think at the time she was dating um, Freddie from Grupo Control
Yeah.
at the
Yeah. I
time.
remember her. Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
anyway, so I was trying to get acquainted with some people, but I didn't have any friends, dude, and so I remember walking the doors that come in, and the first thing I hear is da, 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 da. Los black cats. No sé si tú te acuerdas de los black cats.
Mm-hmm.
So yo me aviento, bro, al piso. Because I'm thinking there's a gun being shot off at school. I heard this stigma that La Jolla was bad or whatever the situation may be, but I was this nerd coming into a school where I had heard nothing but bad things about the district, and that they were gonna stab me or something like that. I was like, so I was a little skeptical to come to La Jolla, but I did anyways, right? I mean, I'm glad that my life played out the way it has been so far. But so we go to they throw out these black cats, and I freak out. But to your point, man, I remember when I was in and I won't remember the teacher's name because it's a long time ago. But no, flaquito for science. It was called IPC. No sé si te acuerdas de esa clase IPC.
Yes, yeah. Mm-hmm.
You went to Jimmy, right?
I was a Jimmy Carter, yeah, because remember back in the day, it was when La Jolla was just one school. It was at the senior high was just juniors and seniors, and then Jimmy Carter building was freshmen and sophomores,
Mm-hmm.
and then the Juarez building was also freshmen and sophomores. But I think the Juarez building housed the kids from Ann Richards Memorial and Irene Garcia, I believe, and then I think
Something like that.
and then the ones over here at Jimmy Carter were the students from Zavala and Chavez at that time when those middle schools were the only ones that were out.
Decían que los rich kids used to go to Jimmy and the poor kids used to go to Juarez.
That's what they said.
So I was at Juarez, man. But there was this one class, man. I remember it was a IPC, and to your point, to your story, man. All my answers, dude. Whenever we were taking tests or whenever we were doing work, yo me cubría así because to me it was like my work, it was mi trabajo. Why I was gonna give somebody else the answers, So that's the way I saw it, That was the pre-educator, if you will, in me. Yeah, man. So let's talk a little bit about football, dude. So in ninth grade, you played football, obviously, right?
Yes, yeah. So ninth grade, I did play football. I was at Jimmy Carter. We had a really good squad. We had a really good team. I go back and I look at that year, and I believe we didn't lose any game. I think we tied one. I want to say against Sherryland, and I think we were like co-district champs or something like that. But we had a really good squad. What was that?
You were in the red team?
Yes. Well, to me, I always felt like both teams were like red teams because both teams. I know Coach Bobby Guerra coached the red team, and then Coach Ochoa was a head coach for the B team. But like I always said, like those teams are stacked because I mean you had Humberto Cerda that was on the B team, and even like Miguel Castañeda that was also there. Yeah. So I mean they had some good talent there too.
Well, so my brother actually sent me a picture of the other day from one of the shirts that how you remember when we were in high school and you get those team shirts at the end of the year
with all the names in the back.
So he sent me a picture of that the other day, and I was like, damn it, we went undefeated at the white team. We got district champions.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah.
And so, sí me acuerdo también that year. I mean, I was I wanted to play running back, bro, but I was fucking slow, dude. I was fucking slow. I wasn't very strong, so me acuerdo muy bien that I tried my very best to be on the running back squad. Y no me acuerdo quién era. Se me hace que era Coach González, el online coach, que dijo, ¿sabes qué? This is not gonna work out for you as a running back or something like that. And when they put me as a tight end, and I couldn't catch shit for balls, dude. I was like, doesn't work out. So my coach finally, hey, it's time for you to look at the offensive line, and we gave that a shot. And I think I was a pulling guard, if I'm not mistaken, freshman year. And that was something else. I enjoyed it. I'll be honest with you, man. I think everything happens for a reason, and I think they put me in the right position. And if I would have known a little better where my life was gonna go and what direction it was headed, I could tell you that I wish that I would have started to think more like an offensive lineman early on, because I think that if I would have stuck to being an offensive lineman, I would have wanted to have been an offensive lineman. I probably would have gotten some more playing time at the college level, or maybe even gotten recruited to D2.
No, yeah, you're right. Yeah. I think sometimes like as a starter, like I remember like me sometimes like as a player, I think I sometimes played scared and not as much. Like I see it now, I'm like, damn, like I wish I would have played like this, or but I guess I felt more sometimes like I was scared to mess up or the coach was going to get after me for certain things, right? Like I remember my freshman year, I played running back, and I clearly remember one time it was a 36 sweep. Remember that play, 36 sweep?
Oh, yes, sir.
So I'm going right. And at that time, I mean, I'm not really, I mean, I'm just running the ball. I'm just looking to score, you know what I mean? So I don't know about, you know, about that the six actually meant to hit the six hole, you know?
Yeah.
I'm just going to go and take the ball and I'm going to go score. But I remember one time I bounced it out and I went outside and I guess I was too slow to hit the edge and they put me out of bounds. And I remember Coach Benoit that time, Coach Val Benoit pulled me aside. He's like, son, it's 36 sweep. Hit the six hole. And I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, let me show you. And then that's when he drew it up. And I was like, oh, okay, well, get nice, you know. I didn't know that it was that's why it was called 36 sweep, you know. But
what did the 3 mean?
The 3 was my number for the running back.
Okay. I was just checking, bro. I was just checking.
Yeah, because I remember the two, if it was a 26, it was for the fullback. So the 2s were for the fullback, the 3 was for the running back. Yeah, and then of course, like if it was like a 12 or 11, it was a quarterback that was gonna sneak it either to the left or the right. But that's what it was.
I remember that. I remember that.
But same thing. I mean, I think if I would have, because I remember I transitioned to defense. Yeah, in my high school years, my sophomore year, and I think if I would have focused a little bit more on that phase right there, I think I probably would have been a little bit better than what I was. You know, I'm not gonna say I wasn't bad because I wasn't bad, but I think just studying the game more and learning my craft, like my own craft, you know, because I think, and that's what I tell a lot of kids, you know, practice your craft, your skill, you know, because that's what's going to get you to the next level. And that's what's going to get you better, you know?
Yeah. Practice your craft. I'm going to write that down, bro. I'm going to use that as I want to make a t-shirt of that. Practice your craft.
That's what it is.
So freshman year, obviously we were dominating. We dominated and whatnot. So, you know, and you know, going back to the classroom, going to the football field, I mean, we dominated. You know, we had plenty of depth. You know, we had 2 squads.
Mm-hmm.
Come sophomore year, bro. I mean, I don't know about you, but I estaba empeñado. I wanted to be like my cousin Robert. You know, my cousin Robert was an animal in high school, and I wanted to be like him and play football like him. You know, he was a stud, and I wanted to be a defensive end. And you know what? I think I could have done a really, really good job. I just didn't know enough about the sport of football. But anyways, I try out for defensive end position, and I remember Coach Wood, man. You know, he put me on the varsity group for a little bit, and I don't know if you know about this about me, dude, but like he puts me on the varsity squad, and there's this one. I think they're running the 36 sweep. I don't know. I was a pulling guard. It was Rolando Gonzalez. I don't know if you remember him. Big Rolly. Yeah. So I pull and I stop the play and make the tackle. Hey, do it again, because Coach Trevino got upset that, you know, this freshman kid or sophomore kid who was on the white team the year before, you know, was stopping the 36 sweep, whatever the situation may be. And plus I do it again. I blow it up. Do it again. Do it again. I think I blew it up 2 or 3 times before. You know, Rolly, I guess, gets upset and he really just pops the hell out of me. And because I get a stinger right here on my left side, and dude, I don't get up for a while. And I practiced. I think I practiced the first scrimmage on the varsity group, and then that second week, you know, after that stinger had occurred, I think Coach Wood made a realization that he's not ready. But I had this massive stinger, dude, and I ended up sitting sophomore year because I had nerve damage. I couldn't move it up, you know. So, and they say, hey, by the way, you need to go back to the JV red team. I think I played 1 or 2 games, and then I sat out the rest of the season because I couldn't move my shoulder. And then I came back, obviously, and I was never a defensive lineman ever again in high school. What about you, man? How did your sophomore year go?
Oh yeah, my sophomore year, well, that's when I got moved up. My freshman year, we were still freshmen. I was myself, the ones that were at Jimmy Carter. It was me, Jesse Trevino, Steven Ramirez. We would go to the high school during athletic period. We would go over there during our freshman year, yeah, in the off season, and we would go work out with the big boys over there, yeah, with the sophomores and the juniors and seniors, right? But my mentality was like I don't care if you're a sophomore, I don't care if you're a junior, I don't care if you're a senior. Like my job is to come over here and bust my butt to get your job, you know.
Yeah.
And that was a mentality that I always had growing up. Like Like I didn't care who you were. Like when we used to do the workouts outside with like the ladders, the pipes, the tires, like I wanted to be in front. And I remember some of the coaches were telling the seniors, no, like you go in front. Like, why is the freshman in front? You know, but that was just the way I was, you know, like I didn't want for anybody to be in front of me. I always wanted to be in front, you know, and like,
Yeah.
even like, it's just like the competitor in me. Like I want to prove to someone that, you know, like this is who I am. This is what I can do, you know, and it goes back to what you said right now, right? Ozzy put the sleds. Yes, the sleds. We pulled those big tractor tires. Remember those big tractor tires? We would put on those vests or like
I remember those. The
yeah, the chain.
seatbelts. The
Yeah, but it
seatbelts.
goes back to what you were just talking about right now about when you were blowing up that play. You know, like you were doing that because you wanted to prove to those coaches, like, hey, like I can play. You know,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that's what like we had, you know, like, and even like even the players before us. Like I remember that '04 class, like your cousin's class, Robert's class. That class was stacked. You know, you had Mario Garza, you had Alan Montalvo, Mario Flores, Robert, you know, and some of the O-line guys that were there. Like those guys were big, man, and they could play.
Yeah.
You know, and us, the younger guys, the freshmen, because we're freshmen at that time, we looked up to those guys, you know, and that's who we wanted to be. But again, it's this goes back to your work ethic and wanting it, you know, and that's why I tell the girls that I coach right now, like you gotta want it, like, you know, like nobody's gonna give it to you. I mean, like you gotta go and earn it, you know, like it's just not gonna get handed to you. And I think the mindset nowadays has changed to where kids want everything handed to them or that they think they deserve it, you know.
Yeah.
But in reality, like no, like I think us as adults need to teach them that they gotta go out there and earn it, no matter what it is, no matter if it's in sports or just in life in general, you know.
You know what? And that's what I was saying, Rudy, in Mendelsville Live. I go, that's what I love about, for me in particular, about football, but in sports in general, man. Like sports in general teach you how to handle adversity and how to handle life, and that's what I love about sports. That's what I got into coaching. You know, we'll talk about that in a little bit here. You know, because I want to ask you if you always knew, but I'll come back to that. But
Yeah.
don't answer this one right now. We'll come back to it later. Did you always know
Okay.
you wanted to be a coach? So did you always know you wanted to be a coach? So we'll come back to that in a little bit. Go back to your story here as a sophomore. And did you start as a sophomore?
I didn't start at that time. I think I honestly, as a sophomore, I honestly think I should have given a chance to start. I played a lot though. I played a lot my sophomore year. Opposite corner. I think at that time the starters was I don't know if you remember Andy Hernandez. Andy Hernandez
Yep.
was there. Juan Gonzalez, Coach Pollo was there. He was a free safety. Pollo was a free safety.
Shout out! I'm about to send him this little clip right here.
Shout out to Pollo. He was a free safety. So every time I was in the game, as a corner, I felt safe because I knew that guy was behind me. If I got burned deep, I knew Pollo was back there, and I knew he was gonna either lay him out or he was gonna get that pick. So it was good to have that guy out there. What was that?
Coach Gonzalez estaba loco.
Oh yeah, that guy. Hey, that guy was a hell. Whoever's on right now, that Juan Gonzalez, Coach Boyle. Hey, shout out that guy. That guy could ball. That guy, he had speed. He could play. He just had a knack for the ball. He would go out there and you know, he just had a knack for the ball. He was
a game tonight, dude. He's actually we spoke about maybe an hour and a half ago, and he says he text me because I have a game tonight. So I got something going on with him.
He's like, coaching basketball. But I remember, man, we went into halftime one time. We were playing against McAllen Memorial. It was his senior year, and we were playing McAllen Memorial. Bradley Stevens, of course, was a hype, and we had Juanito Martinez. So it was a battle of the running backs, and we were just going back and forth. We were just going back and forth scoring. I think the final was like 50-some to like 60, or I don't know what it was. But I remember halftime, Pollo comes in and he has a concussion, dude. He doesn't even know where the hell he's at. He had just gone head to head with Bradley Stevens. And I mean, that game was an intense game. It was a really good game. But again, I mean, all those guys, me, like being a sophomore there, I mean, I learned from a lot of those guys that were there, you know, like believe it or not. I mean, sometimes, I mean, you pick up some things from like the older players, you know, and you don't realize it as a student athlete, you know, because you're young. I mean, we're only 15, 16, 17 years old, and you kind of want to hide that you don't look up to a certain person, but you do, you know, like you do, like even now, you still look up to people, you know.
I look up to my cousin Robert, dude. Like I to this day, dude, and I have a story about that. I don't know if you were already coaching with me or not, but
Yeah.
there's a did we start coaching at the same time?
I
2012?
think no. You what year did you start?
2012 fall of
No, I
2012.
started. I started the year after. You already had
And so
a year under your belt, I believe. Yeah.
sí, so ese año, dude, and we'll come back and revert back to the story, pero ese año le digo a Coach Espinosa, I go, hey, there's an alumni game happening. It was Mission Eagles versus La Jolla Coyotes, dude. Bro, I'll tell you what, man, the guys that were before us, I always say this. I think that throughout the course of years, from when we were in high school and even the 90s, the demolition crew, like
Yeah.
as we have progressed through time to today, I don't think you can compare today's squads to the 90s squads. I mean, those guys were
Yeah.
animals. Those
Oh
those
yeah.
guys were men, right? And so we were at this alumni game, dude, and do you remember Oscar Rivas?
Oh yeah, I do. Yeah. Yeah.
Big Mokano. Dude, this
Mocaro.
guy,
Yeah.
shout out to him, man. So my cousin was playing in this alumni game. I was playing in this game, and I remember Oscar Rivas. There was a bunch of us others playing. I think Richard Cantu played. I'm not even sure Humberto might have played. Doc was taping up everybody. Doc andaba ahí con su hurt back. He was there, man, taping everybody up, and I think he was very emotional, very excited to do that because I think he was excited to have been a part of those, because he was the athletic trainer for all those groups. But anyways,
Yeah.
man, Robert was just killing everybody, dude. Like, I mean, we won this game 36 or 33-3 or 36-3, or I'm not even sure, dude. But we won this game. We killed Mission, by the way. But look, get up, Robert killing. I mean, tackle after tackle after tackle, dude. He ran the ball. The guy's an animal. But what I remember Oscar Rivas did, so we had to borrow and bring our own equipment, dude. I borrowed pads, I brought a helmet, we all borrowed the Palm Views jerseys. My kids always ask me, hey, coach, how come you're wearing Palm View Lobos? You were a Palm View Lobo? And I was like, no. We just wanted to borrow some gear so that we can play against Mission Eagles.
I remember. Yeah.
And aquí dice Ozzy, chile, tomate, cebolla, 90s Coyotes, baby. Woo! And so, yeah, man, we had all this borrowed gear, but I very distinctly remember Oscar Rivas, Mocaro, I think we call him Mocaro, right? Big Mox.
Mocaro, yeah.
Okay, he comes with a helmet, dude, y no tiene padding adentro, bro.
Oh,
No
damn.
padding, man. I was like, nah, mames, está local guy. But, man, that attests to the true mental toughness, man. Like, those groups, I mean, más para allá que para acá, because in the 90s and the early 2000s, man, those guys, had some cojones on him, if you know what I mean. So,
Yeah.
I remember that very distinctly, man. We killed Mission. We killed Mission, so it was a good game, man. And it was fun too. But I'll be honest with you, that hasn't happened again. I haven't seen that happen again where you have like an alumni game, even if it's flag football. I haven't seen that happen. So
Yeah.
maybe we should bring that back.
And just to piggyback a little bit on that, it just goes back to that shows how much pride like we had like all those guys that played in that game, how much pride you have to represent like your high school or like where you're from or like where you come from. It just goes back to having pride. And I think nowadays, I think that's what we've kind of lost, I believe. Like I want to say that we've lost is that, like that pride. I just feel it's not there, and I think we need to somehow bring that back to not only La Jolla, but like maybe like other high schools that might be lacking pride,
Bro, say less, dude. I mean, I don't know. I remember the last year you were there at La Jolla, but say less, dude. When I was there my last year at La Jolla before moving over to CCC, I could not fathom why, you're talking about pride, I cannot fathom why La Jolla students, not necessarily athletes, but La Jolla students are walking down the hallways with Nicky Rose shirts or with Memorial shirts or Sherryland shirts. Like, why is that a thing? Like, why are we allowing that to happen? To me, like when I was being a part of your school is supposed to be, like you said, it's supposed to mean something. And correct me if I'm wrong, but in the 90s you had like you still had those those gangs, and you and I'm not saying that it's I'm not trying to relate it to the gangs, but like if you belong to a group, you belong to a brotherhood or a sisterhood,
right?
something, and you showed massive pride in that group. And so you know, I remember at least I wouldn't. I mean, I'm wearing a red shirt, dude. I still bleed red, dude. Look at the code. If you don't, I don't know if you see that right there, but where it says Luciano and Eric Ochoa, that's red. You know, like I bleed red to this day. You know, I'm not saying it's my favorite color, but it's my color of choice. You know, black and red, red and black, red and white. So I bleed red, dude. Like I obviously bleed, burnt orange, but like I bleed red. That's my alma mater. So for me, you know, and you know how passionate I get about this kind of shit. Like I don't know if you remember that one time where I blew up in the bus.
I think I do, yeah. Or maybe no, because I think we drove. I think we would go offense in one bus and defense in one bus, or no?
Well, see, but we were both defense.
I don't remember.
I blew up one time, man, on the bus because we had lots.
I think I do remember. I think I remember, and I was like, oh damn, like I like that.
Sí, estaban acá, you know, laughing around, goofing around. So I blew up, dude. I blew a gasket.
Oh, when we were coaching.
Yeah, when we were coaching.
Oh, yes, coaching. Yeah. I remember. Mm-hmm.
When I was teaching, I mean, when I was playing, I mean, I was passionate too, but I wasn't about to rip a senior a new one. You know what I mean? Like, I'm gonna let the seniors be the ones to take care of that. But even before, I think it was junior year. By the time I was a junior, I feel like in my eyes, I could tell you that I started to develop a role of leadership. You know, and even because in the weight room, you know how I've always been. Dice aquí Mario Flores, chécalo. No fly zone, baby.
No fly zone, yeah. Hey, Mario, shout out to Mario.
Shout out to Mario.
I believe 1 or 2 years there, we coached the secondary. Yeah, learned a lot from that guy.
Pues también era DBL, no?
Yeah, he was back then. They called the position a monster. So he was like a strong. It was like a strong safety position, but you called it a monster. Where you were like a hybrid linebacker kind of DB guy, you know. So that's what Mario played. And the same thing with Mario, man. Mario would bring the wood also.
Yeah. Shout out to Mario. And you know, you're talking about him bringing the wood, but hey, for his size, dude, I mean, he laid you out, man.
Yeah.
But going back to junior year, man, can you say Coach Joe Pena? You say great coaches, baby. Thank you, sir. Appreciate you, Joe.
Shout out Coach Pena.
You remember Coach Joe Pena, right?
Yeah. He's a principal now.
He's a principal. All right, so I'm telling you, man. Yes, sir. What I was saying, man, is like I think my junior year, so I obviously developed, I think what I would say my leadership in the weight room, you know, and I attribute that to Coach Benoit pushing me, you know. Hey, I think he's the one that taught me to like be able to express myself in the weight room, and so you know I was puro coyote, you know, and yelling while I was doing the power clean, and you know. I had a pretty good power clean. I started to develop my leadership role, I think, in the weight room. And by the time I was a junior, pues ya estábamos en los, ¿cómo se llaman? En los line markers. And I was like, puro coyote. And remember that shit, man.
Yeah.
So I remember that. And we used to get all pumped up and all that good stuff. And but you played a junior year, right?
Yeah, I started my junior year. That's when I started. I started my junior year and my senior year también. But again, those were the years. I mean, I think our junior year we didn't have too good of a year. I mean, I believe we made the playoffs that year, and I think that was the year that we lost to Los Fresnos. We lost to Los
Fresnos. So I actually got 4 or 5 minutes worth of playing time that year.
They had the Springer brothers that year, and I remember Coach Wood ripped me one time. We were in. I believe we were in a certain coverage, and I was in my zone. We weren't man, and the guy goes by me, and I believe was Humberto playing already safety? I'm not too sure, but they basically just burned our secondary. I remember Coach Wood pulling me on the sideline. He's yelling at me. He's ripping me. And he grabs my face mask. He's like, that wasn't Coach. And I'm like, Coach, that wasn't even my zone. You caught this coverage, isn't that? Mm-hmm. And later on, he comes over and apologized. Oh yes, we weren't in that coverage. This was a coverage. You were right. And I was like, hey, you know. But I remember that game.
What did he call you?
When?
Coach Wood.
I don't remember, man. Coach Wood would call everybody different names.
The one I remember from him is he called everybody punch muffins. Like everybody was a punch muffin, for lack of better words. Everybody was a punch muffin, man.
He had so many names for so many guys. I don't even remember what he was. But that year, But that year I was coached. The secondary was coached by Coach Farias and Coach Whaley. So shout out to them. I learned a lot from them as well.
Yeah, so I as a junior I didn't play very much. I played in the game against Los Fresnos for the last 4 or 5 minutes. Yeah, when it was pretty much over,
The
and
game was over.
yeah, one of the offensive linemen decided to, I guess, get hurt or something like that, and I think I come on in and I get a little bit of playing time there. But yeah, senior year rolls around, man. I get some good PT, man. I
Oh, we
started
picked
senior
it
year.
up. I mean, that year I remember going into that off season. We were doing spring ball. You remember that
Hmm.
that we did
That was our
spring
first
ball
time spring ball.
when Coach Villaseñor was still there, and then all of a sudden we get the news that he's gone, that he's leaving, and everybody's just like, "Shit, like what's going on?" Like we
Yeah.
all start freaking out, and then I believe Coach Wood also left. So we
Hmm.
started getting all these coaching changes, and us as players were like, "What the hell's going on?" But in your mind, you're like, "Hey, we're still gonna play ball no matter who's here."
Yeah.
And that was our senior year when Coach
But
Casas came in,
we had a tough time, man. I think we had a tough time adjusting to that. We had a little
adjusting,
bit of an
transitioning. Yeah.
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 So like, I remember very distinctly when I remember Big Dog, myself, and I can't remember who else. It might have been you or Humberto. I remember we went inside his office and we asked him, hey, that there was talks about removing the que salgan los coyotes.
Oh
Like
yeah, they wanted to remove that. I mean, and growing up, that's something you would go to games as a kid and you want to come
yeah,
out to that.
yeah,
That was like La Jolla's. Like I want to play for La Jolla because of things like that.
yeah. I
And
remember
then
that.
also
And
I remember the Coyote eyes on our decals
mhm.
that they wanted. Well, they did remove them. We didn't have them our senior year. I don't know if you
No,
remember that. They
no, it
they
didn't.
removed that. But those are
Yeah,
things that as a player like I'm going back to the word pride. That's something that you played for. Like you wanted to play for that. I mean, even across our chest. I mean, what did it say in front of our chest on our jerseys? It's a puro coyote.
pride. Yeah,
You
pride.
know.
I remember the word pride también. No, at some point.
I don't remember if it said pride, but I remember our jerseys said puro coyote, our
Yeah,
sophomore and junior year, and then we got our new jerseys our senior year. But I mean, it goes back to
yeah.
pride, man.
Yeah. So we talked a little bit about football and our experiences there at La Jolla, man. Well, let's go back to the classroom, dude. Like,
Yeah,
tell me a little bit about how, we talked obviously about Mr. Steckler and whatnot. And, I was a nerd. Maybe you not so much, but I'll tell you a little bit how I started off, man. So I obviously came into La Jolla as like, I was this nerd. I couldn't really fit in, dude. I had a hard time fitting into, like, if you will, clique, man. I mean, I don't know about you, but like coming in from the teacher academy, I had a hard time fitting in. I couldn't really fit in. It wasn't into my junior year, mid-year, where I found my clique, if you will. ¿Qué dice aquí? Este, what's I don't know if I should put this one up, man. We'll let you read it real quickly.
yep.
Anyways, what's it called? I was a nerd, man, and I didn't fit into my clique, if you will, into junior year, mid year. Dude, like I said, I was a nerd. I tried hanging out with this particular clique, and I tried hanging out with this other clique and this other clique. Man, I think I traveled from clique to clique until I finally found my group. Man, my group was the group that was in Mr. Steckler's class, the math guys.
Yeah.
Estaba Juan Mendiola, Roel,
Oh,
a big boy, Andy
big
Gonzalez,
boy, yeah, big boy.
y Juan Solís, and so pues mi compadre es Juan Solís now, and pues that was my group, my clique, all these. But see, the fun part is that those guys did the whole UIL thing, and I did the whole football thing. And I think maybe they played middle school football, but they did the whole UIL thing, and they were strong individuals, dude. And so obviously I was into the whole. I think we just meshed, bro. Like we just, like I said, I struggled freshman year, sophomore year, and up to junior year. I had a hard time figuring out who my clique was, and this year, the junior year, when I'm in Mr. Steckler's class, I'm figuring out who I am. All the math guys, and but these guys are all repping 300, 315 pounds in the bench press. Roel was, Juan was, Mendiola también, and Big Boy también. I was like, man, these guys are my guys, man. So that's when I found my clique, if you will. And me empecé a sentar con ellos, and we started to have lunch, and man, we had all
Yeah,
kinds
because
of
I
like,
remember in high school we had like how many lunches? Like 3 lunches? No, we had A lunch, B
see,
lunch, and C lunch, right?
yeah, uh, yeah. I mean, I don't remember how it was in Juarez or how it was for you maybe in Jimmy, but like for me at the high school, like I said, man, me empecé a sentar con estos guys, and man, we would just laugh about like, dude, we had this inside joke about algebraic expression, and we just make, and so that was our algebraic expressions and shit like that. Uh, Stegler, man, biggest shout out to him because it was because of him. You know, we talk about like, hey, what did you want to do when you grow up? At this point, as a junior mid year, I started realizing what I wanted to do, not knowing that, obviously my life takes its course, right? But at this point, I had even told Mr. Stegler, hey, Mr. Stegler, and jokingly, right, I'm gonna come back and get your job because I love your job, and I wanted to be a teacher. He's the one that kind of inspired me to want to be a teacher. I obviously loved football, so I wanted to do something in combination. I remember asking the coaches, I go, hey, what should I do to be able to accomplish teaching and coaching? And I remember the coaches would give me advice about, maybe you should go into the Kanish route, and somebody else would tell me, hey, you need to go into the get your math degree and then become a teacher, and then you can still coach on the side, because you're always going to be a teacher first and then coach, kind of like
Right.
a student first and then an athlete, right? Which brings me to another point where we talk a little bit of that. But at what point did you know you wanted to be a teacher?
I did. I believe that was I want to say my sophomore year. I want to say my sophomore year. I've always been an art guy. I took art. I mean, you only need one fine arts credit, right, in high school, and I didn't have to take art junior year, senior year, right? But for some reason, I just took the class over and over, and with the same teacher, with Mr. Ruben Salazar. He's now, I believe, a principal still. I don't know where he's at now. I know he was at La Jolla when
Yeah,
we
I
were
didn't know
there.
he was your art teacher, dude.
Ruben Salazar was an art teacher, yeah, for many years, yeah, and then he became an assistant
Wow.
principal. So I believe he's still there, right? I want to say, but I was in his
I would.
class, and there was times where like I would do my artwork, of course, but then I would finish, and then he would have me grade. So I would grade some of the artwork, and I'd be the one input. I don't know if I should be saying this, but I was the one who was inputting the grades for students that were in his class, and I'm a student, and I'm inputting grades for students, but
No
but
digas eso,
anyhow,
bro.
but, but anyhow, but that's where I realized. I was like, hey, you know what? Like, this is pretty cool. Like, maybe like I can do this, and the same thing, and I knew I wanted to coach. Why? Because I looked up to our coaches, like Aaron Garcia, Coach Venecia, my track coach, to Coach Manuel Flores, when our defensive coordinator, and even Coach Farias, Coach Whaley, all those guys. I mean, those are guys, Coach Benoit, that you looked up to. You looked up to, and you wanted to follow in their steps. And I think that's when I was in school, in high school, my sophomore year. That's when I was like, hey, you know what? Maybe this is what I want to do. And same thing, And I told a lot of kids that I asked them like, what do you want to do? He's like, no, because I want to coach. And they think that they have to go the kinesiology route.
Yeah.
And a lot of them do that, thinking that they want to get like a P job, but you don't necessarily need to be a P coach to coach. I mean, you want to be a teacher first, and like you said, like it's like the student athlete, and from then on, I say, you know what, this is what I want to do.
Yeah. Yeah. So the coaches that I can more clearly, distinctly remember that had an impact on me are Coach Benoit, Coach Garcia, Alanis. He was my O-line coach, But when I say that I think impacted me, not only impacted me, but also developed a friendship after high school and after
Oh
college.
yeah.
Coach Garcia and Coach Benoit. There's a couple of other ones, obviously Coach Farias, but the ones that I think impacted me directly were definitely Coach Benoit in the weight room and Coach Garcia. He helped me, I guess. Obviously, there was always the weight room in the summers and whatnot, but he helped me realize that I can accomplish what I wanted to accomplish after high school. I told a couple of coaches, hey, I want to walk on here, and I think everybody was rooting for me, but the one that I know that really rooted for me was Coach Garcia, and he had my back 100% of the way, and hey, give it a shot, let's go, and I really appreciated that, because that was very impactful. But for me, those are your two main coaches, in my opinion. There was more. Coach Wood was obviously, I took a little bit of a character there. Coach Trevino, that was
Mhm.
another impactful coach. Especially in the weight room too, and as an O lineman, growing in there, I love the way he did his strength training, man. And so a lot of my strength training as a football coach today comes from that ideology. So it comes from that as a high school perspective, because it's hard to do everything we did at the college level in the high school setting because of the lack of time, right? So all my
Yeah.
coaches really impacted me, man. I think with the exception of a couple that I won't mention names, that maybe have already kind of been brought up in this podcast. I think all my coaches really played a major role in getting me from point A to where I am today. But the people that I have a friendship with are Coach Benoit, Coach Garcia. Those are the ones that I can say I have a friendship with. I'll call Coach Garcia, he'll call me. We talk a little bit. Coach Benoit, we'll talk a little bit. Those are the coaches that coach me that I still can say I have a relationship with. Whether it was in the classroom or whether it was out here. I remember in college, Coach Garcia, he took me out one time for some lunch. And how many
Yeah.
coaches? Like not very many coaches.
Yeah,
Make the time to do that.
Yeah.
At the college level when I was up there, coach, I remember he took me out for a quick lunch. Hey, go, man, cool. Let's go have some lunch. Got a little comment right here. Miguel says good coaches.
Miguel,
Those
that guy could play too. Our freshman year, that guy could play. He played linebacker. Miguel,
That
shout
guy
out to
can
Miguel.
sing, bro. That guy can sing too.
That guy was a hell of a linebacker. He was a hell of a
Mhm.
linebacker. He ended up getting hurt. I believe injuries had kept him out from playing, but hey, that guy could ball también.
Yo me acuerdo que Miguel cantaba, bro, en el voz.
I remember, sí me acuerdo, yeah. Sí me
Pero
acuerdo.
Vicente andaba cante.
Going back to those coaches, I mean, that have been an influence to us. I mean, there's still times where like I hang out. I mean, I haven't in a while, but with Coach Garcia, we'll hang out. I've gone to his house, we hang out. With Coach Vanessa, we've gone out to go have lunch, right? With Coach Martin Campos, like all those, all those guys. I mean, you look up to them, and now it's like, I mean, we were blessed to be able to coach with them, and now we consider them, big influencers in our lives,
Most definitely, man. Yeah, honestly, man, I think most of my coaches, and it's kind of hard to remember all of them right now, because there was another one that his name was Garza. I remember him too.
Oh, you're talking about, yes, the linebacker coach.
Yes, him. También, he was a good one too.
Yeah.
Efraín Garza, yes.
Yeah,
Coach Rudy Gonzalez was another one. We don't talk about Rudy Gonzalez very much, but he's a hell of a coach, dude. And he did a hell of a job in Sherryland too after La Jolla, so.
Yeah, Felipe Barrera was another one.
So all these coaches, dude, and I guess it's hard to remember some of their names right now, but all of these guys were big impact coaches in my life and your life as well. And Miguel talks about grew up wanting to be like them, dude. I want to be like most of these guys. I wanted to have a combination of all these characteristics and traits and be able to coach and have football players want to be like me as well.
Yeah, and I think it goes back to also like that's like a goal, like as a coach, like me and you, like we both coach, right? Like it feels good when former players, still reach out to us and thank us. Hey, coach, how's it going? Like they look up to you, or like they even tell you, hey, thank you for what you did. Thank you for inspiring me. Thank you for this time, man. Maybe like you forget and you're like, oh, damn, like, yeah, like I remember now, but like as a human being, I think that's like an ultimate achievement, getting that feeling that, hey, you know what? I've made a difference in this kid's life,
Do you ever run? I mean, I want to ask you a question. Sidebar. You ever run into students or football players, man?
Oh yeah, plenty of times. Yeah.
But that you can't remember their names.
Sometimes I'm like, what's his name? And I'm there looking, and they're like, hey, coach, how's it going? Like I run into a lot of my ex-players, dude, and I'm like, what's this kid's name? And I feel bad, but then I remember. I'm really good with remembering names. Once I see the face, I'm like, oh, okay, yes, I know.
The face, yeah. So, Frank, dude, he goes, hey, coach, is this why you called us big dogs? Like, I always go, hey, what's up, big dog? What's that, And so, I mean, it was a meme, right? And I hadn't thought about it, but I always call all my football players or even my studio, hey, what's up, big dog? That's just my character, my personality. And, dude, I kid you not, man, he sent me that meme, and about a week later, I'm at Target, and this kid, he comes up to me. He's like, and the thing is that I remember him physically. I remember his face. I remember, that he was one of my athletes. And I for the life of me, could not remember his name. He was like, "Hey, coach, what's going on?" I go, "What's up, big dog?" And I remember Frank's meme was like, "Man, ya acá todo nervioso yo, dude. I was sweating, dude, like
Yeah,
pouring sweat out." And I was like, "Man, you can see my arm, dude. I kid you not. In the course of a minute and a half, I went from having dry armpits and my sweat to being completely wet, dude." And he goes, "I'm sir, don't worry about it." But shout out to him. Alex Galaviz, man. I don't know if you had a chance to ever meet him or know who he was, but
yeah, I think so. Yeah.
he was one of my power lifters and my football players también. And yeah, I just couldn't remember his name, man. I just felt so bad. We got another comment here from Miguel. Would love to see Big Dog as Coach Andy Santos. What?
Yep.
Man, that would be a hell of an offensive line coach right there, baby.
Hey, going back to right now, he's saying I don't know if Andy Santos is still on the live or not, but I remember one time our freshman year going back, I was playing running back and he was playing O line, and I remember Coach Bobby Guerra calls a play to the other side, opposite of Andy Santos, because they knew that we were just going that way, and then we're in the huddle and Moya is a quarterback, so Moya calls a play, and then Andy Santos, a big dog, he realizes that the play's to the opposite side of him. And he comes to me and he's like, "Hey, Eric, just run through my side. I'm gonna make you the hole." So we ran the play the opposite side. Sure enough, we were able to score. I believe that play. We were playing against Nicky Rowe, I remember.
Nice.
Shout out to Andy.
Moving forward to our senior year, bro. What was your favorite game? Let me ask you that question.
My favorite game. There was a lot, man. There was a lot. I mean, we barely got in the playoffs. We barely got in the playoffs. I remember that. We needed some help, but I want to say and I think you talked about it with Sergio in his podcast, in his segment, but it was against Sherryland. And I think he said that was his favorite game too. It was against Sherryland, and it was homecoming. So you had like they usually have, what do they have, like the reunions, right? Like the class reunions. So all the classes are there. So the stadium's packed. La Jolla's down at halftime. I believe we're down 21-0, something like that. 21-0. We come back out, and I remember, I believe I had said, I think Elias comes and blocks the punt. Elias blocks a punt. Well, we come out on defense, and we just set the tone early on defense. The fake punt. I think the fake punt. That's right. But I believe we had blocked the punt first. Elias comes out and blocks a punt. He blocks it, and then Roldan recovers it and scores. And then after that, we come back out and we run that fake punt with Richard. I think Humberto throws it to Richard, and then we end up scoring on that drive. And Sherryland just had no answer for us. I believe we scored 29. I think the final was 29-21 or 28-21. No.
I thought it was, I thought we were like one more score. I thought it was 21-0. Andy said it was 28-0. I'm gonna have to go back and
I
watch
think the final. I think I remember clearly. I think the final was 28-21 because I believe we scored 28 unanswered points.
Yeah, and I remember that
in the second half. Yes, and that was the final of the game.
So that has to be one of my favorite games, and I have a hard time deciding. I was talking to Sergio the other day, because I have this very vivid image, bro, of when we were playing the PSJ Bears in a very cold game.
I remember that game. That's one of my favorite ones too.
They say
28-22 was a final. 28-22 was a final. Yes, something like that. 28-21.
So my favorite games, because that obviously the Sherryland is a very big game, and we're down 21-0. We come back out, win, badass. That has to be one of my top two games because I have this. The PSGA game for me, like, I have this moment where life slowed down. Dude, I remember being it was cold, it was freezing, and it was raining. And I don't know if it was sweat or rain, but we were down the line, and we go down. We go and get ready to get set to play the play, but everything stops for me in a moment. And I remember, like, it's kind of like a movie thing situation where you were looking at the helmet right in front of you, and the sweat was slowly trickling down. It wasn't like it wasn't going at 9.8 meters per second squared. It was going like slow. And so, for whatever reason, that has to be, to me, I think was the most impactful game because I always wanted to envision ourselves in a game where it was like a movie-like game. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And for whatever reason, that to me was a perfect game because it was wet, it was rainy, It was cold. It was muddy, right? Because I remember it was muddy. It was muddy.
Yeah.
You know, it
Because at
was
that
for
time
me.
we didn't have any turf. We played on natural grass.
Yeah, so for me, that has to be my favorite. I guess maybe the favorite game would be the Sherryland.
Yeah, I
The
think the
Sherryland.
Sherryland game was like the turning point. I think like the Sherryland game was like the turning point because if I remember correctly, we had just come off the previous week to a loss to Donna. We lost to Donna 7-14. Donna went on and won district, but we gave Donna a hell of a game that year. And then we
And
come
then
off
that
that game,
first year,
and then we turned it around right there against Sherryland, and I think that was a momentum that got us into the playoffs.
Coach Garcia, they couldn't handle Alex Garza nose tackle. Remember, Alex
Oh
Garza
yeah,
was a hell
no,
of a
but
player, dude.
that PSJ game, yeah, I remember. I actually I had to pick that game, and I remember when I went up, I saw everything super slow. Everything was just slow motion, But
I
but
swear
sí
I
me
had a
acuerdo.
fumble, bro. I had a fumble recovery that game. I can swear that I had one. I don't know, but everybody says it was a down ball. So
Hey,
I don't
and
know.
that game too, we went into halftime down 14-0. We were down 14-0. We came back out, and I believe we won that game 28-14. That
Yeah.
game.
I have the games. I told Sergio I have all the games right here. Unfortunately, I don't have a CD player, or DVD player. I have to watch them on the PlayStation or something like that. But man, I'll look into that, man. Get back to you as far as the scores go.
Yeah.
Moving forward, Eric, we talked a little bit about our high school careers and how our high school life turned out in terms of football, in terms of education. I want to talk a little bit about your college life, man. What did your college life look like?
I went on. Well, it was my senior year. It was I wasn't planning on going to Michigan State. That was my last. I wasn't even thinking of leaving the state of Texas to go to Michigan State, right? But I actually wanted to go play ball. I had me and Humberto, I remember, had gone to some little some presentations for camp for like some schools. I remember we went to a presentation with a Texas Lutheran University scout or like a football coach, and I was actually thinking of going to go play ball there, right? Um, the end of the senior year, I decided to go to Michigan State. Miss Gonzalez, one of the counselors, tells me, "Mijito, you can go to Michigan State. Everything will be paid. This and that. This and that." You know what? It sounds good. Yeah. You know what? Let me give it a try. I ended up going to Michigan State, and the reason why I qualified to go there was because I was a migrant, so I was considered a migrant. So at that time, migrants, of course, got a lot of benefits, right? I don't know how it is now.
Mhm.
I think they still get certain benefits, but they've cut down on a lot of funds with the migrant program. But still, I was able to go to Michigan State. So I went to Michigan State freshman year. I get there, and it's like just like a culture shock, because of course I've never been anywhere alone, right?
Mhm.
But at the same time, as like me in my head, like I want to make my family, I want to make my parents proud. I want to be the first college graduate, So I'm there, I'm living life. Of course, I was not a partier or anything like that. Even like when I was in high school, I always was just stuck to my own. I did my own thing. And in college, that's pretty much what I did. That's pretty much what I did. I didn't really go out much. I was go to class, come back, come home, play some Xbox, some video games. We played some football here and there. We did some intramural sports. My freshman year, I actually walked on at Michigan State. I didn't make the cut, but I was still able to be there and see some of the guys work. I tell a lot of people that I was there when Le'Veon Bell was there with
Oh,
Kirk
wow.
Cousins.
Okay.
Kirk Cousins was also there. But Le'Veon Bell, I actually got to meet Le'Veon Bell my sophomore year. Le'Veon Bell's a year younger than us, but my sophomore year, Le'Veon Bell was already coming to campus, and he was already working out with the guys there. And I was able to.
Nice.
We had lunch through a mutual friend of ours, and that's how I was able to meet him. But at the time, I mean, I didn't know Le'Veon Bell was going to go to the NFL and be big, So it
Yeah.
was just like, oh, he's just a running back here at Michigan State, nothing big, even with Kirk Cousins, and I mean, and those guys were able to make it big. But just to see the work ethic that those guys had, but as a college student, you know, again, I was always just to myself. I always kind of isolated myself. I would take my laptop. I would go study. Sometimes I would always say like, how could people just go like to like coffee shops and go study and be there all bored? But that's pretty much what I did. My college life, was
Sí.
a lot of studying and just staying up late nights, reviewing for exams, for midterms, for finals, a lot of it. There was even times where I'd be in my dorm and I'd be like, damn, like this isn't for me. Like, I think I want to quit. Like, I think I want to go back home, and something in me was just like, no, I can't, because again, going back to me always hearing my parents in my head saying like, no, like you got to make us proud, and it was just that mindset that I had, that I wasn't going to give up. And I mean, I stuck with it. Unfortunately, I didn't finish my education at Michigan State. I transferred back over to, at that time it was UTPA, because my daughter was going to be born. My daughter was going to be born, so I transferred back. So again, it was a sacrifice, and like you said earlier, you believe that everything happens for a reason. So I that was something that happened in my life. I did want to finish out, so I did 3 years at Michigan State, and then I finished off my last year at UTPA. But it was a sacrifice that I had to make. So I came back, and that's what I did, and I finished off at UTPA. Me faltaban poquitos credits to finish off, so that's what I did. But I always say, done. But but like I always said, like, because when I walked on at Michigan State, the following semester they called me back again. Coach Felino was a player development coach, and I remember he calls me back again. And he says, "Hey, Eric Ochoa, we want you to come back again and try out again." But I didn't go. At that time, I was already taking six classes in college, and man, I always say, like, what if I would have gone back? Maybe they would have given me a shot, to use my speed on kickoff, on punts, something, Yeah. But I mean, going back, I mean, and even now, like with you, I mean, there's something that's badass, like I always bring you up to friends, like when I talk about football, I always say, hey, I have a buddy that played at UT. I even look you up on my phone, and I show him the roster. Hey, look, he's here. This is my friend. Yeah. He played with Colt McCoy, with Earl Thomas, with Kenny Vaccaro. All like those guys. Some of those guys, I mean, went on and played in the NFL.
Yeah. So I think the only one still I might be wrong. So I think Adrian Phillips is still on a team. I think Keenan Robinson.
You also played with the Ochoa brothers, right?
Yeah, Sam Ochoa and Emmanuel Ochoa played with him, or was on the scout team with them. They were on the roster. That was on the scout team.
Because you were a freshman. You were a freshman when Colt McCoy was a senior, right? Jordan Shipley was also
there. I was a freshman. They were in the second to last year, because I tried to walk on fall of 08, but I had a class conflict, and that's the year that Crabtree made that.
Michael Crabtree! I remember that game. I was watching. I was at Michigan State, and I remember watching it on TV. It was UT against Texas Tech. I remember that game.
So he makes that one-handed catch, and he pretty much cost us the title to national, or to the way to the path to the national championship. And but that was Colt McCoy's, I believe, second to last year. I don't know if he was a junior or a sophomore.
Probably a junior.
I think he was a junior. So I tried to walk on the fall of 08, and then springtime rolls around in 09, and I don't have that class conflict because I figured out what I got to do. So I was able to get on the football team at that time. So my story goes a little bit, and I'll back up a little bit. When I graduated from high school, I said anywhere I got accepted to all the major universities, top 10%. So that's how I got accepted to the universities. I wanted to go to Baylor, because I said to myself, hey, if I go to Baylor, I have a higher chance of playing. But everything for a reason, So Juan decides that he wants to go out to UT. And I think at the time, Roel had decided that he wanted to go to UT before he made the decision to go back to A&M. So me and Juan stuck to UT. We go to UT, and I say, wherever I go, I'm going to go and give him my shot to go walk on. Now, I don't know anything about, what the world of football is going to look like beyond high school. But as we're walking down, I don't remember the name of the street, but we're going uphill, and I see this big old dude, man, massive traps like this, humongous, bro. And he's coming down, I'm going up, me and Juan are going up, and he's coming down. We pass each other, and I go, Juan, stop. I go talk to him. So this guy's name is Charlie Tanner. I just knew he was a football player, and I'll never forget. I go, hey, Charlie. Well, I didn't know his name at the time, right? I go, hey, do you play football for the University of Texas? And he goes, yeah. He gives me a number to call, and I call that number. I go, hey, what do I got to do to try out and walk on? And they give me all the spiel and all that good stuff, So I think maybe 2 or 3 weeks before, or was it maybe a week before the first game or something to that effect, they have the tryouts and whatnot. And man, it's a hell of a workout, bro. I'm talking about, like, you talk about right now not wanting to quit. I wrote that down. Bro, I wanted to quit 10 times that day. And I kid you not, 10 times that day is the number I counted, because, and probably more, but 10 times I can tell you at every 10-yard line I wanted to quit. So the way that this particular event went. You obviously had your workouts, you had your 40-yard dash, you had your agility drills, you had all these. Man, we tried out, and you had your coaches there. I don't remember all the coaches that were there, but I do remember Jeff Madden. Jeff Madden was there, and the very last thing they asked us to do is, they asked us to do a 100-yard bear cross, and every 10 yards you do 5 up downs, 5 Lombardis, and um, you when you do these 5 Lombardis, you have to yell out "I love Texas." And so, man, we're doing these the first bear cross. I'm like, man, okay, cool. So everybody takes off thoughts, and I'm like, oh shit. So I take off them. Yeah, obviously I wanted to be one of the first ones. Was not going to happen because I was not the fastest that day, right? Um, so we get to the first 10-yard lines. I'm dead ass beat tired. And I do my first up down. I love Texas, kind of like quiet, get back down, get back up. I love Texas, get back down, get back up. And I lose count. So I reset. It was 10 yards, right? So I go back, at this point, everybody's like at the 20 or the 30-yard line already. And I'm one of the slower ones. I love Texas, get back down. I do my 5, move on to the 20-yard line. I love Texas, get back down. I love Texas, get back down. I love Texas. And again, I lose count, man. I lose count so many times. But at this point, I'm already at the 20-yard line. I'm thinking to myself, nobody knows who I am. I can quit right now. In fact, I can walk out the door. The door was so close to me, bro. Like I looked back and I said, the door is right there. I can walk out right now. Nobody's good. I owe it to nobody. I owe it to nobody to be a part of this football team, So I look at the door. I keep going. I love Texas. And this little man right here was saying, hey, you really going to quit? And this other man was saying, hey, you don't owe it to nobody. You don't have to be a part of this university as a football player because you owe it to nobody. I love Texas. And this little man would say, hey, don't quit. I love Texas. And at this point, maybe about the 30 or the 40-yard line, I'm still doing I reset many times, man. I don't know how many times I reset. But I reset, and at about 30 to 40-yard line, I started to get real loud. And I'm the last one. I'm going to be honest with you. I was the last one to finish that drill. I love Texas. Get back down, count my 5. I lose count again, go to the next 10 yards. I'm the last one, but I'm the loudest one. You know how I am, and the weight room was always loud, right? So at the very end, Coach Mad Dog talks to Jeff Madden. He talks to all of us, and he points at me. He compliments me on a couple of things here and there, and talks a little bit about the integrity and whatnot of a football player. And he complimented me on that aspect. And obviously, like I said, I wasn't able to walk on or be a part of that team that year because of the class conflict. But come around spring of 2009, and I'm on the team again. I had to go through the tryouts again, but I'm part of the program. So going back to you in Michigan State, bro, what did you study? I know we study art, but what else to study?
Yeah, that's pretty much what my major was. It was I studied art education, so it was art ed. I took a lot of courses, a lot of studio art courses. So my college years were spent in the art studio. That's all I did. I took painting, drawing, ceramics. Ceramics was a really fun class.
Is that the one where I was about to ask you. So
yeah, no, that one's that's pottery. Yes, yeah. Ceramics was more like you're working with clay, so like different types of clay, and then of course you build stuff, and then you can fire it up in the kiln. You do like for example like the bus that they create for like the Hall of Famers.
Mm-hmm.
Like first like they make them out of clay, they design them, and then they put them in the kiln, they fire them up, and then of course they go through the metal or whatnot, whatever material they use for that. I took photography as well. I took a lot of those. It was mostly all studio courses. Art histories were boring classes, but of course I had to take them, and it was funny because my art history classes, you would go to class and like students were never there. Students would not show up to class, but then when we had exams, everybody was there that day, but just the experience of it, I would wake up in the morning and you're talking about Michigan State. So as you're in Michigan, the weather's different. Snow, all slushy and muggy, real ugly. I mean, you wake up in the mornings and you're like, damn, do I really want to go to class? But that was something that I wanted to do, and I got through it.
Está bien. So then we come down to the Valley and you graduate and we start working, right? We start teaching.
Start teaching. Yeah. So we start teaching. So I actually
go ahead.
No. I was actually was gonna have an interview at Converse Judson
No
the
shit.
following, I was going to have an interview at Converse Judson for an art teacher position. They were going to give me the job. They just said, hey, just show up for the interview and the job's yours. And of course, I wanted a coach, so that was going to be a good opportunity for me. I then the following day they called me and they said, hey, La Jolla has an opening, ISS teacher for the meantime, and then later on you can move into art. And then I ended up staying here. I stayed here. My first year I did ISS. As a matter of fact, that was my first job. You know, my thing was, okay, but am I going to get paid as a teacher? Yes, yeah. And then I coached my first year with the freshmen. I was a freshman coach, and then the following year I got moved up to the varsity staff.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So that's kind of like how when I graduated from college, I was trying to line up some job interviews in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. That's where I wanted to go and coach. But that month of graduation, I get sick and I get bedridden and whatnot, to the point where the doctor says I'm gonna die. But everything happens for a reason, man. I show up to the interview here, and I show up to the principal, and the principal says, "Hey, you're hired within the 2 or 3 minutes, man." And I was like, "Cool beans, man. Cool." Go talk to Coach Espinosa.
Let me get my charger because my battery's low. Let me get my
Go
charger.
for it, man. Go for it, man. And then Andy, just to answer your question, bro, I actually I have some DVDs. I don't know exactly what I have. I know I have the games. I need to go back and review them because I haven't seen those DVDs in, I want to say, man, 5-6 years since I've seen those DVDs. But I do have the videos there. But if anybody has any couple questions in the meantime that our guest is coming back, by all means ask for them. We'll have him back on the show here in a little bit. Give him some time to charge his battery. I told him it was going to take about an hour, but we're obviously having a great conversation. We'll let him get back here in a little bit. Commercial break. If I had sponsors, I'd be able to be like, this show is sponsored by somebody. So if anybody wants to sponsor the show by any means, go for it. We'll make that happen. We'll give you guys a shout out. We'll wait for Mr. Ochoa to get back here in a little bit. He's charging his laptop. Let me see. Give us a quick minute, guys, here.
Don't put it on the pool.
So we're gonna let him go ahead and charge his laptop. But in the meantime, I'll throw a plug in here real quickly. For those of you guys that know who I am, I'm a real estate agent with Remax Platinum. We'll throw this plug right now. If you have any questions about real estate, feel free to reach out at any given time. Got my number. You guys can go ahead and follow me on Instagram or Facebook, and you guys can give me a call. You guys can call me at 956-862-1556. We have programs for first-time buyers, down payment assistance. If you have any questions about any of that, we'll get you in contact with the loan officer that best fits you and whatnot. And we do got Mr. Eric Ochoa back on the show. He's setting himself up.
I'm gonna try to transfer it to my iPad over here. Hold on. I can transfer it, no?
Yeah, just open up the new link. Open up the link on your iPad. You should be fine.
Let me see. Yeah, I don't want it to die out, and we're having a really good discussion.
Yeah, and actually, I think we're about to get into an even better discussion here shortly. We'll say this is an intermission, bro.
Yeah,
because we're about to get to the meaty part of our podcast, as educators, and so we're just gonna prepare the audience for this. We're gonna talk a little bit about what it is to teach today versus what it was to teach 10 years ago, and what it is to be a teacher when we were in high school. And so we'll talk a little bit about that, and then we'll go ahead and give some advice for aspiring educators. Plenty of times I used to have plenty of students ask me, "Sir, what do I gotta do to be a teacher?" And teaching is great, and we'll talk a little bit about this. Teaching is great, but you have to have the world's patience, and we'll talk a little bit about that here in a little bit when we get back from the intermission here, if you will. And come back for about it was a 5-minute break.
Hey, so I can just enter the studio over here, right on my end.
Yeah, just enter the studio and I'll let you in. Excuse us, guys. We are having some technical difficulties. I actually think I lost Mr. Eric Ochoa. It might be. There you go. He's in. Did your other one die, bro?
Yes.
Yeah, it looks right here like it just. I'm gonna kick you out from the studio.
From
the other one.
Yeah, from the other one. Yeah. Yeah. So I'm on my iPad. Yeah, because I forgot that laptop charger. I left it at work, but it was getting good here.
Man, no iPad, bro. All right, man. So we talked a little bit about our college years, and obviously you talked about your football experiences. We talked a little bit about my football experiences and my tryouts and my no quit mentality. And I want us to move forward. I know I told you it was going to take about an hour, but when the conversation gets good, good, you know, and we can just keep flowing. But I don't want to be here all night. So let's move forward, right? So let's talk a little bit about teaching today versus teaching 5 years ago versus teaching 10 years ago versus teaching when we were in high school. What changes have you seen today compared 5 years ago and then compared 10 years ago when we started teaching?
I'm gonna be just straightforward with it, and I think what it is just lack of respect from students, right?
Okay.
I mean, I'm not saying every student, right? I mean, and of course, I've only worked with high school students, so I'm talking about 9th graders through 12th grade, right? But this is my 10th year from when I started. I mean, it was started to change. I saw the little transition from the difference of when we were in school. Back in the day, I mean, I would go to school, I would mind my own business. My teachers, I respected all of my teachers, no matter who they were, no matter if they disagreed with me for a certain issue. But for the most part, I mean, I was quiet. I would just go to school, do what I had to do. And I saw it as hey, I'm here to play football. I'm here to play sports. I'm going to do my work, and I'm going to be successful. And, this is what I'm going to do. But now I see it more to where students are kind of, this is like whatever to them, and this is like a whatever to them. They're just trying to get by with whatever, just kind of like half-assing it. They're complacent with where they're at in life, and they just don't want to progress. I mean, still to this day, I always ask my students, what do you see yourself as? That's the first thing I ask them when I meet my students. For the first day, I ask them, what do you want to be in life? What do you want to do? Some kids, you'll be surprised, they have no idea what they want to do in life. No idea.
But I'll add to that, dude. Like, I didn't know what I wanted to be until I was a junior in high school, and that was an idea, perhaps, because even today, bro. Like, if you think about, like, I'm not even doing teaching today. You know what I mean? So, like, you got to figure out what's gonna make you happy in life, and I think I don't know. It's kind of hard to say that we should have it figured out as a high school student. I don't think many of us can have it, but. To add to that particular thing, I think what needs to happen at high schools to be able to help students determine that is we need to do more career fairs. And not at the elementaries, dude. Nobody's gonna remember what they learned in the elementary level as far as careers go. You're gonna remember your doctors, you're gonna remember your lawyers, you're gonna remember engineers at maybe. But I think as a high school, that's when you need to maybe bring in career days and not just your lawyers and your engineers, because there's more to life than just lawyers and engineers. Maybe you want to be a manager at a Costco, and you know what, man, I hear Costco has great benefits. That's what I hear. But I think that needs to be brought into the high school setting so that you can help students figure out what they want to be, because I didn't know, bro. I really didn't. I mean, you said you figured it out as a sophomore?
When I was Yeah, like I kind of already figured, like I had it figured out of what I wanted to do in life, what I wanted to be. Of course, I didn't know that I was going to go to Michigan State, right? But I kind of knew what I wanted to do and what I wanted to be with my life, you know.
Yeah.
Moving forward with
So
that.
go ahead.
No, no, no.
You said moving forward with what you wanted to be.
Yeah.
So I have this big belief that honestly cell phones have screwed us over.
Oh yeah. Oh,
And
and
I
actually, as a matter of fact, to butt in real quick. So this year I'm teaching engineering,
okay.
principles of applied engineering. New content to me. Had no idea what I was gonna go into, but I've actually been learning a lot. This new content that I'm teaching, which is the principles of applied engineering. Today, we got into talking about technology, and we talked about how it's affected us in a negative way, how it's affected us in a positive way. And I told the students, I believe a lot of us are just attached to our technology, that we forget to prioritize the things that are important in life, And we're talking about, I mean, we talked about, having a proper conversation with face to face with somebody in person. Some of these kids don't even know how to talk to you anymore. Why?
Yeah.
Because they're so used to just texting and sending messages that they don't know how to have a conversation with you, right?
Yeah.
So that's something, like you said, the technology, phones, I think it's all that has been affecting us in a negative way. And technology, to be honest, has made life easier, because now you have all
Hmm.
these apps, you have all these applications that you can like you can do and use, even like in the healthcare world. You have all this technology that has grown.
Yeah.
But as far as in education, students having access to certain things, I believe it's been a distraction. And I think when COVID happened, of course everybody was virtual.
Hmm.
I think it kind of set back some students, and it kind of just made them a little bit more lazier. I'm not gonna lie, even me, like as a teacher, there was times where like I got lazy at times, like I didn't want to do certain things, but
Yeah.
I still had a job to do. Um, and like I told the students today, like you all gotta find ways to prioritize what's important in your lives, instead of just focusing in on technology, social media. And that's right now, that's the main thing I feel that is holding some of these students back.
I agree, man. So for me, I've realized that the phone, me personally, is more of a fidget spinner than it is anything else. You know how we had those fidget spinners, we're just
Yeah, yeah.
fidgeting, that. So for me, like I'll be looking and I'll scroll without even knowing what's actually on the screen itself. So I'm scrolling and I'm scrolling. It's more of a fidget spinner. And I'm not even looking at the content that's on the phone. I'm thinking about something else to a degree. And so I don't know if you've ever done this, bro. Like you're in a meeting, you're doing like maybe an in-service or something like that. But me personally, if I'm not fidgeting, like if I'm not moving around or if I'm not doing this with my pen or something to that effect or clicking it, that's my fidget spinner.
Yeah.
So that I think for me, what a phone is today is more of a fidget spinner than it is anything because I'll watch people on their phones and I feel like they're in the same boat that I am. They're more of a scroll thing than they are actually paying attention to the content that's there because they're contemplating what's really going on in their life. So I feel like the phone is more of a fidget spinner today than it is an actual tool to use in the classrooms. And don't get me wrong, you can play Kahoot, you can play
Oh yeah,
all
those are
these
good
other
programs.
little games, Pear Deck, you can do all this work with iPads and phones and technology. But I think right now the phone at the high school is more than anything because as still as a little kid, was you still have everything pretty much blocked off. But I don't think I think that I think phones should be like 18 and over. Go
Yeah.
you want a phone, you have to be 18 and over. But that's just my personal take on it. I think there are distraction, but I also have a pro to it. Here's what I think, dude, and I mentioned it the other day. It's more of a dream world society. I don't. I think the education needs to be revamped. It needs to be reformed. My wife and I talk about it from time to time. I've talked to business people. There's something that has to be done in the world of education that needs to be changed. When I talk to business people, everybody always asks me as a math teacher, I go, how come they go, how come you guys don't teach more about real life? And what I mean by real life is like talking about taxes, you're talking about real estate, you're talking about this business mindsets. And the truth of the matter is because in my opinion, at least with conversations that I've had with teachers, business people, with other educators, it's in high schools. I think we're very stuck with the mentality of the 40s, the 50s, and the 60s.
Yeah.
We're creating the workforce. We're creating the workforce. So I think that hasn't changed, and it's just we're still stuck with that, and we're not reforming to the point to this point, bro. Like we don't need to be in schools. And I say this is a dream world. Um, 'Cause I talked about it in Men's Do It Live. Again, dream world. I don't think we need to be in school 8 hours a day.
Yeah.
With how fast information is being processed today, a student does not need to take an hour to learn. If I plug in the number 5 for x, it's equal to 10. Like those little things. I don't think it needs to be 8 hours a day. And that's just me on the math side. I think information, like I said, is being processed way faster. It's in our fingertips, and we don't need to be in school 8 hours. In fact, to your point, if we can bring down the hours that somebody is in the classroom, if we say, hey, maybe we're going to be in the classroom 4 or 5 hours, maybe we can use 2 or 3 hours for extracurriculars activities after that school, and we can have students home by 5 o'clock, by 6 o'clock, and spend time at home with their families. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? So that's kind of like where I wish, dream world, dream society is. I think that education should maybe head out, and maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm right. I don't know. I would like to say that I'm right, but I don't know. I mean, what's your take on that?
No, yeah. I also feel that us as adults or like as parents, like I see my kids and whatever they need, like if it's homework, because I remember me myself, like growing up, like my parents always helped us out with homework, support us, whatever we needed when it came to school, like we had to get it done. And it started at home with your parents.
Yeah.
If you didn't get it done, you weren't gonna go outside and play. You weren't gonna go do it. Like you weren't allowed to do anything if you didn't finish your homework or if your assignments weren't done or even if your grades were bad. You know,
Hmm.
and I remember clearly about a few years ago, and we're talking about students at IDEA. So before I even started working at IDEA, well, I worked at La Jolla for 5 years, right? And then this is my 5th year with IDEA. But my first year, well, my first perception of IDEA students was, oh, IDEA has all the smart kids. That's what I always
Hmm.
thought in my head. IDEA has all the smart kids. Well, when I started working there, I realized I was like, hey, no, like these kids are the same kids that I had in La Jolla. They're the same kids, you know.
Hmm.
Este, but I remember clearly calling one of the parents one time, and talking to them about their child, and the parent clearly, like no shame, tells me back like, well, sir, like that's your problem, like you got to deal with it. And I told them back like, no, like you see the student more, like the student lives with you, this is your child, like it starts like with you, like yes, I can guide them and support them and help them through whatever they may be going through, but at the end of the day, you're the parent. You're the parent.
Hmm.
It's like if my daughter or my son's teacher calls me, I cannot make that comment to that teacher. Hey, well, that's your job. No, because I'm the one that needs to talk to my child and take responsibility on that. And at IDEA, there was a saying that we had, and the saying goes, when the adults get it right, the students will get it right as well. So I
Hmm.
believe it starts with us, with the adults. And if we're parents, I believe some parents, and I'll say it here, if there's any parents online right now listening to this, if you have students, give them as much attention as you can, because they need it. Little do we know, they might not ask you for it, but whatever they need, ask them, hey, mijito, how did school go today? What did you eat for lunch? Little things like that. All those little things, um, as a child, play a big role in their lives. Educationally, that those are things that show them that you care. As a parent.
Yeah.
And I believe that's just where it starts with me. With your parents, and eventually it will transition to school, and then of course respect, all those morals will follow.
Yeah. And but that time with your family, man. That's what I'm trying to get at. Like going back to me, my dream world. I think that would allow for more time for you're talking about, like, you know give yourself that the ability to ask your kids and whatnot. Like when I mean, I don't know about you, but when I was in high school, I would get home at 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock at night.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, I remember you said that you would take the bus, and I remember like you wouldn't get home till like real late. I mean, I'd be home early or earlier than that for sure. But I remember you told us that story one time when we were there in the coach's office.
And so at what time have my parents seen me? You know what I mean? Like at what time? Like at 9 o'clock, at 10 o'clock at night, they're seeing me in the morning before I took off. You know, I've pretty much always have lived that life if you think about it. But that's what I'm talking about. Like we need more time. Kids need more time with their families at home.
Yeah.
And you know, that's what I'm saying. I don't believe in these 8 hour days, you know. I think there should be reform. And again, this is just dream world society, but I agree with what you're saying in terms of like the parents need to come in and say, hey, um, more time, more time, more time, and maybe get them off the phones or something like that. I have no idea. All right, we're gonna go ahead and move forward, man.
Yeah.
I kind of just want to close it off here a little bit and a little bit. As an educator, and you have students that you know are aspiring teachers. What advice would you, Eric Ochoa, give your former students or students that you have in college that are looking to be teachers? What advice would you give them to these aspiring teachers?
What I would first of all tell them is I would tell them, know that if you're going to go into this field, that you're doing it for a purpose. You're doing it for a purpose, because that's the same thing that happened when I was. I mean, like when I was doing it. I mean, I was doing this to go into this profession for a purpose. Why? Because again, like I had those mentors, those coaches, those teachers in my life that inspired me, and I wanted to be like them. And hopefully one day, if I can be an inspiration to them, just making sure that they're doing this for a purpose, and it's because they want to make not just like, well, yes, the world a better place. Because if you think about it, I mean, there's times where I think about it, like, damn, like it's getting scary, like the way things are happening, the way things are shaping out. And it's like, if we can just talk to these students, in a certain manner, and have them just be open-minded and expand, and maybe they can change certain things, because I mean, I'm not saying that I'm the best teacher or the best counselor, because at the end of the day, I mean, we're not only teachers, we're also counselors, we're advisors,
Mm-hmm.
we kind of act like a second parent when we're at school, when kids are going through certain situations, and
Mm-hmm.
I would just kind of want to mold those students and give them the best advice that I can, and whatever it is, whatever you need, let me know. If you're going through a certain obstacle in life as you're in college or going through college, you can reach out to me, and I can be there as a support system. Kind of like when you mentioned earlier, when you said that Coach Garcia invited you out for lunch.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes us as adults, or like young adults, you need that support system, right? Not only from your parents, but from other adults, to show like, hey, you know what? Someone else actually cares for me or cares about me, and
Yeah.
then basically just trickling down. And I think Sergio said it the other time, just you're planting the seed and you're watering it, right? You're watering
Mm-hmm.
it, and you're hoping for that to expand, and you're hoping for them to continue that like the chain of love, like they say, and just inspire others as well.
So let me ask you another question. A follow-up question to that is,
Yes.
what do you think your purpose as a teacher is?
My purpose as a teacher, like I've always said it, my purpose as a teacher is to change lives. And everybody can probably say, and I know it sounds cliche, right? Because everybody always
Mm-hmm.
says like, why are you going to be a teacher? Oh, to change lives. Oh, because everybody says that, right? But no, like genuinely, like from the heart, like that's what my goal is, to change someone's life, for them to look back and say, hey, you know what? I was going through so much in my life, and this teacher, just by having this conversation, or maybe just one word that I said to that student, can change what they might be going through,
Yeah.
and
Oh,
then
for
and
sure.
then and then from there, maybe they figure it out on their own, but maybe they just need that little extra push, and they figure it out on their own, because I know that there was times where I was growing up, and like the same thing, I was struggling. I would ask myself, damn, like, how am I going to do it? And just by listening to others' advice, I mean, if you're like I said, if it means something to you, like I tell my girls, like the softball girls, if it means something to you, then you're gonna go on with it, and you're gonna make the best out of it.
Yeah. And I'll interject here. I think my purpose as a teacher, and I realize this now uh, as a teacher, as a real estate agent, I love to help.
Yeah.
I love to help. And I have a story, and I don't know if it's a fun story or that's definitely not a fun story. It was something that happened to me now that to a degree, I can kind of go back and be like, it was a situation, and my very first year teaching, dude. I don't know if you remember back in the day. uh, La Jolla had the district or the school they had like vocationals, like if you were gonna go to the wood chopping path, or you're gonna go to engineering path. So they
Yeah,
had
pues,
these paths laid out.
yeah, I
Go ahead.
remember. No, no, yeah, I remember like the vocational buildings, right? Like in
Well,
that
it
area.
was it was it was like if you wanted to study engineering, like if you wanted to be an engineer, you're gonna be like geared into like a STEM path. If you're gonna do, like an art teacher, you're gonna go into the
Yeah,
liberal arts path or something like that. So there's one year, man, my first year teaching, I get all my classes are like stocked and loaded with boys, but there was this one class that had one girl, and and I'll never forget this story because this is when I truly figured out what my passion is in terms of like why I became a teacher. Okay, it wasn't just about numbers and education; it was about helping people. I wanted to be a helper, and this little girl, she comes to class. She's always every day she does her work, but this one day she doesn't, and I'm like, man, this is starting to piss me off as an individual. How come this student is not doing her work, And she comes out. I mean, she comes to the class and she puts her head down. I'm like, man, it's pissing me off. Like, what the fuck is she doing her work? And I said, go beat that. I remember her name. At this point, I don't remember her name, but I go, you need to
yeah,
go outside. We'll talk in a little bit. And I told all the other kids, man, as chingo the testosterone in this class. She was the only girl, dude. Maybe she was one of two different girls, but I tell her, hey, you outside. All y'all do your work right here. Go outside. And I start talking to this girl, man. I go, hey, I don't understand what's going on. You're one of my best students here. I need you to do your work. And she starts to kind of like cry. I go, what's going on? I'm over here pissed off. Why are you not doing my work? First year teaching, have no clue what's going on. And she goes, I lost my baby. And I'm like, well, Mita, where'd you leave him? I literally asked her, where did you leave your baby, dude? Um, now I didn't know what that meant, like I
yeah,
didn't know what that meant. And she manages a chuckle but starts to cry at the same time. I'm like, oh fuck. At that moment I realized, holy shit, she was pregnant. She lost the baby. And I was like, I'm freaking out, bro. Like I really have no idea what to do. And at this time you started having those teacher boundaries with students conversations in your head. And I was like, hey, you can't hug this student because she's a female, that. But she needed somebody, so I'll go and run across the hallway real quickly. I go, Miss Pat Garza, you get to come over here and talk to the student because this is a situation. And she gives her a hug, and we walk her over to the nurse's office. I continue about my day. At the very end, as I'm walking out towards the football field, man, she's still in the nurse's office. She looks at me. I go, hey, is everything okay? And she doesn't say anything. She just smiles. And that smile, bro, was thank you for caring.
yeah, yeah,
And that's when I realized my passion for helping people. Like I've always wanted to help people out, whether it was in the classroom or wherever it's at. I'm always helping people out. So that's why I got into teaching. And that Coach Garcia over here with a he was laughing at
listen,
that story. He
come
goes,
on,
come on,
Lucy.
Lucy. But yeah, that's a true story, and I have a bunch of other stories as an
Oh yeah,
educator, dude. Uh, we're things that we're not supposed to do, but we still do them because you know what? It builds rapport with the student.
kind of like
Um,
when we used to have our defensive meetings with the players, on Saturdays after Friday nights. The kids come in all bruised up, sore from all beat up from the following day. I mean, I remember that group that we had, and that was a really good group with Irvin Zamora, with
mhm.
Xavier, with Adalberto, that little group that we had. And I remember coming in one Saturday and we were watching film. The kids had already showered and they're there. And I remember just looking at them and like, man, like these kids are like they're going through hell like for us, you know what I mean? Like they're playing hard for us, like we're
Yeah.
here, like if we're like without them, we're nothing. So then I remember the following Saturday, I said, you know what? I'm gonna bring them breakfast tacos. So I remember I got them breakfast tacos, and they were excited, man. They were happy, and just to see them, like, damn, like, like they were really thankful. Like you can tell, like you can tell that they were thankful for a little small gesture of a breakfast taco, and it goes a long way.
It does. And you bring me to my man, I wanted to close it off already, but you bring me to another point, dude. Like you talk about students being thankful. Correct me if I'm wrong, but over the course of years, you see less and less of that.
Oh yeah.
Do you remember when you were in high school, the summer was coming around and you say you want to go give Mr. Steckler a hug? You want to go give Miss So-and-so a hug? Hey, thank you for doing a great job this year. I don't see that happening in the classroom anymore.
Yeah, no, you're right.
Where's that appreciation towards the teacher? So I feel like that's another change that we see. We don't see that appreciation from the student to the teacher. Now, obviously, there are, people can say, hey, this because, students shouldn't be hugging teachers. But, dude, I hug all my teachers.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, thank you for being such a great teacher. Thank you for being the teacher that you are. You impacted me this year. You don't see that anymore, dude. And you talk about that little grateful moment that these kids, man. I remember we used to do that quite often. We used to bring peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, dude.
Yeah.
But anyways, Eric, as we close this off, man, do you have any other thoughts or expressions or concerns that you would love to leave the audience with?
No, it was just just what I mentioned earlier. If you're a parent on here, if your kids are still in school, just be there for them. Be that support system, because I feel that kids nowadays, in the world that we live in today, I feel that they need that support system from us, from the adults, from parents. Take them out one day to a movie. Take them out, go buy them some munchies, whatever they want. Do it for them. Because those are the little things that they're gonna appreciate. Maybe right now, they're little, but again, when they go to school, then just teach them to be friendly. I know I've had calls from my son's teacher. Hey, Devin's been acting up, this and that. I said, okay, ma'am, I'll talk to him and I'll straighten it out. And sure enough, I follow through with what I say. And I think that's another thing, us parents just being I guess like manning up to what we say and following through with what we're gonna with what we say we're gonna do. Because a lot of times we might say, okay, I'll talk to him, I'll do this, but we don't do it. And I just feel us as parents, like I said, we're the adults. If we can follow through with what we say, I think it'll make a difference. Maybe not a big difference, but a little difference, and small steps, because that's what it's going to be. It's going to be small steps for us to get back to where we want to be in education and in the classrooms.
Coach Mendes just tuned in and he goes, "Oh snap, no."
Shout out to Mendesville. Shout out to Mendesville.
Have you been on his show?
No, I have not. I have not.
Coach Mendes.
He has not invited me yet, but I would want to be.
Coach Mendes, what is going on, Coach Mendes?
Exactly. And I think we can talk about some travel ball, some sports, some youth athletics, right, with him. But I'm still waiting for him to invite me.
Now I'm gonna give him a call, man. I'm gonna give him a call and be like, hey, you need to invite Eric Ochoa here. I get that, Coach Garcia. Great job, boys. You be you. You're impacting somebody every day, baby.
Thank you, Coach. Thank you. Yes, sir.
Aquí dice Coach Mendes. Let's talk facts, baby.
That's right.
Well, hey, Eric, I want to thank you so much for being on the show, man. Thank you for your time. I know we said 1 hour, but when conversation gets good, conversation gets going. And
yes,
so again, man, thank you for being on the show. And I think we definitely impact our students one way or another. And you never know what's gonna happen, man. Tomorrow, maybe I decide to go back to coaching, and maybe we go back to coach.
Hey, you might see us in the sideline in the near future. Who knows?
De repente, a ver qué pasa. Pues, just hang back a little bit, and we're gonna go ahead and close this off. And if anybody has any questions with Izaki Mendes before we go, mine go 2 hours minimum. Eric can't.
I'm ready, Rudy. I'm ready.
Bro. Hey, I prepped him, Coach Mendes. I prepped him. We went 1 hour and 40 minutes, dude.
I'm good.
He had me going for 2.5 hours away. I had to go pee, man. Going, dude. I was like, man, this guy. Eric, hang back a little bit, man. We're gonna go ahead and take this, turn this off. And everybody, man, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out, comment on the comments below, and either Eric or I will go ahead and reach out. Y'all take it easy. Have a great night, and thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. Good night.